Welcome to Talking Kootenay Books. My name is Keith Powell. I'm your host. Talking Kootenay Books looks for Kootenay-based authors and writers that we can talk to and really profile their latest book. Today our guest is Tony Berryman. Tony, welcome to the show. Congratulations, you've got a new book out. It's called The Night Nurse. And can you just tell us a little bit about your book?
Sure. Thank you very much for inviting me here, Keith. The Night Nurse is a massage therapy thriller. So the Coles Notes version of it is Jackson is a massage therapist who sees patterns. It makes him a brilliant therapist, but it also once landed him in a locked psych ward. It's an obsession that he's got. Wendy is a nurse who cares far too much about her patient's pain. She knows 100 ways to move them beyond it, but she's never been caught. Whenever the body count rises, she packs up and moves west. Now she's in Vancouver. There is no more west, and she's tired of running. So when Jackson's elderly massage clients start dying, he's the only one who can see the patterns behind the deaths. Wendy is horrified that somebody, after all these years, can see the secret behind her work in the night. But she is not going to stop, and Jackson can't let this go. So as these two spiral closer together and the threat grows to involve Jackson's friends, he has to learn to use his massage skills and come to terms with his condition in order to stop the killing or lose everything to the night nurse.
So interesting premise, interesting character development. And I have to ask you, what attracted you to the sort of murder mystery or the mystery genre?
Well, I got my start in my very earliest days reading kid mysteries, the Hardy Boys, and kid thrillers, the Tom Swift series, if you happen to remember those. Yeah. And fast forward a bunch of years, and I met Juanita Rose Violini, who's now my wife. She ran a murder mystery entertainment company, and she's also a murder mystery plot consultant. So she reintroduced me to mysteries and especially thrillers. The thing I most love about thrillers is the good ones have three things in common. Number one, they reach out and they grab you by your shirt collar and drag you out of your life and into the story. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. Number two is they teach you a little something. It could be how the inner workings of the CIA, or how to run a nuclear submarine, or perhaps the professional life of a massage therapist. And the third thing that good thrillers have is they show you the best and the worst of human nature. And that dichotomy is really what draws me in. Is Jackson the best that we've got? Well, he's a competent and capable massage therapist, but Wendy is just about as bad as they come.
So I'm interested to just explore the two characters and the dynamics between the two of them. So you've got these two main characters throughout the book, and as you've already mentioned, there is this tension and dynamic between them. How do you make sure that tension continues throughout the entire book?
You start with the characters themselves. They have to be extreme in one form or another. Jackson is impulsive, and his tongue gets away from him far too often. He is also has a very strong sense of ethics and propriety, and when he sees something like this happening, he can't let it be. He's like a dog with a bone, and he just can't let it go. Wendy is absolutely, totally dedicated to her path. She is convinced that she's the good guy, that she is doing right by her patients, and unfortunately, it means that her patients don't survive the night.
Yeah, she's a bit of a miserable piece of work.
I'd have to agree, yes, and thank you.
I hope I don't encounter her at any hospital in the near future. I did want to ask you, Tony, just about the sense of place within your book. So it is set on the West Coast in Vancouver, and I just thought that was one of the outstanding things about the book is that you really immerse yourself into some of the landmarks, some of the notable things that people would recognize about Vancouver. Did you do that purposely? How did that all flow into your writing of this novel?
Well, I did it Partially purposefully and partially because I'm writing what I know. And Jackson is a traveling massage therapist in Vancouver, and that's what I did. I was a registered massage therapist for 17 years, 12 of those as a traveling therapist in Vancouver. So I fell in love with the place. I know pretty much every nook and cranny of it, and I wanted that to come to life in the book, in the story. Both the sense of Vancouver itself and what it's like to be a traveling massage therapist in that city.
I just read a review in the Globe and Mail, and it was, I forget exactly what book they were reviewing.
Not mine, unfortunately.
Well, maybe in the future.
Maybe.
But the reviewer was just gushing about the sense of place that was in this novel. And in fact, I think the comment was something along the line, that's really why I read these type of books, because I really want to get a sense of where it happened and what happened and so forth. Is that sort of your motivation in making sure that that sense of place is so strong?
I don't know that it's a motivation so much as it's just a love for the Lower Mainland, and it comes through in my writing. But that is one of the solid reasons that people pick up books to read, is they want to be immersed in whatever place that story is set in. And that's part of the whole philosophy of show, don't tell. If you're good at that, and if you manage to pull that off, you're showing people the senses involved in whatever that place is, how it smells, how it feels to drive around, what the sights are, and that's really what brings a place to life.
Right. Now I'm only guessing here, but I don't think there's been many books that had the protagonist, the hero of the book, as a massage therapist. Is this unique?
Pretty close to unique. One of my, and this is a motivation of mine, one of my motivations for writing this series, it's going to be a 3-book series, is to give massage therapists a hero in the thriller genre. That doesn't exist yet. There are a few massage therapists scattered throughout the mystery and thriller genre, but they tend to be professional failures, for lack of a better word. I wanted to show people an ethical, responsible, practical, medically trained massage therapist, both to further that idea that this is a profession, a medical profession, and also to give massage therapists someone to cheer for.
You alluded to it earlier, Tony, and that is the fact that you were a massage therapist yourself. So the obvious question that comes to my mind, how much of Tony Berryman is in your central character?
Oh my goodness, I hope I'm nowhere near as driven and impulsive as Jackson is, but definitely the situations and the homes that he finds himself in come directly from my own experience. As a traveling massage therapist, and I have to say that is one of the most varied and interesting and amazing takes on that profession. I got to see the inside of people's homes, from mansions to basement suites to everything in between. I went to hotels, I went to hospitals, extended care homes, homeless shelters, you name it. I worked everywhere. I got to see people that other massage therapists don't get to see. And one of the things that I quickly discovered is that a traveling massage therapist develops an accidental specialty in geriatric and palliative care, working on old people and people who are in the last stages of their life. And that's the aspect of the job that we see in The Night Nurse. That's what Jackson's working on.
Interesting. So you've developed that very nicely. I wanted to ask about your writing process and how long it took you to write the book. What was the process of actually putting it all together? But first of all, let's just focus on the writing. How long have you been working on the book?
Oh boy, 10 years.
Okay.
When my massage therapy career was coming to its conclusion, I'd always wanted to be a writer. I'm sure that's not the first time you've heard that.
Yeah.
And I figured, okay, if I'm going to, I better get to it. And Juanita, in her wisdom, said, write what you know. And so I wrote a massage therapy novel, and it stank. So I picked up books on how to write, how to put a novel together, how to create a good character, how to create excellent situations, how to write a decent sentence. And then I rewrote it, and I rewrote it. When it was good and done, I took it to Thriller Fest in New York City, and I showed it, and 8 agents said, okay, I want to read this thing. So I sent it out, and I got back 5 stock rejection letters and 3 versions of silence. So I moped for about a week, and then I realized there's something more I need to learn here. And I went back to those books, and I saw the mistakes that I'd been making, rewrote it some more, and then sent it off to a professional editor. And she showed me all the terribly obvious mistakes that I never would have caught myself. I rewrote it again. Several people said, okay, this is professional quality. Then I put it out the door. And all that took about 10 years. The next one, I'm hoping to shorten it up a little bit.
Well, you know, you've done a good job of putting it together, and it does read well, right from the cover design right through the entire book. Very, very nicely put together.
Thank you.
And it's very easy to read. It's fast-paced, obviously. And I just wanted to ask you about that. I know your book is self-published. I just want to ask you about that process. How important was it for you to end up with a product that looked really good?
That was paramount. I decided to self-publish basically because I didn't want to wait. The traditional publishing timeline is years long, and I didn't have that much patience. So I decided to do it all myself. And from the very start, I wanted it to be a totally professional publication. That starts with the story itself, and I've told you how that unfolded. And I wouldn't let it go until other people told me that it was ready. And then I spent time in the library looking at dozens of books and figuring out, okay, how is this formatted? How do I need to format the print edition? What are the measurements? What is the typeface? What does the front matter say? What does the back matter say? What size should I actually print this thing as? And then I took photographs of probably 100 books, both traditionally published and self-published, to see what the covers looked like. The front cover, the back cover, the spine. This one's really, really excellent. This one is self-published and not so good. What's the difference between them? How can I get them to look like this? And I took detailed notes on what it takes to actually put a professional cover together. And then I found a cover designer. Eggplant Studios, his name is Sean Werning out of Invermere. He and I sat down and I showed him what I had learned and gave him some photos and some advice and said, I think I want my cover to look like this. 3 days later, he came back and said, well, how about this? That's the cover you see today. He did just an amazing job on it.
Yeah, good. Well, you know, that time and effort that you invested into your book, you know, shows through. It really does project itself and present itself very well. I just wanted to ask you about, you know, you've done your self-publishing. How have you been out promoting the book? The book's been out since May 2020. And so how have you been out marketing it?
I would have to say that through this huge learning curve of being an independent publisher, marketing is the next nut that I have to crack. So I have a decent online presence through Instagram and Facebook and a website, Goodreads, Amazon, places like that. And I have been using Facebook and Amazon ads to promote it. And a fair bit of promotion around the valley here as well. I have to say that the support that I've received both in British Columbia in general and in the Columbia Valley in particular is phenomenal.
Right.
And there's people here who are so supportive of their artists and their writers.
Which leads me into my next question.
Okay.
What has the reaction been? Can you just maybe elaborate a little bit on that?
Oh, very positive. Just about everybody who's read the book says it's either good or great. It's you know, one of the most reliable indicators is on Amazon. I think I've got about 25 ratings now, 4.5-star reviews, something like that. And most people really, really enjoy it. They find it a delightful, like you said, a fast-paced read. One of my most ardent supporters is Courtney Allen, General Manager of Bacchus Books at Golden. She's a tireless supporter of The Night Nurse ever since the moment she read it. Pretty much my favorite review that I've got so far came from a good friend of mine who said, "This book is fantastic, and I'm so glad I don't have to lie when I say that."
Reviews like that never hurt.
Yep.
So I want to ask you, just in conclusion, you know, it's one thing to write one book. I heard you allude to the fact that you've got a series going.
Yep.
How's that going? When are you planning the next one? And what's the future for Tony Berryman and your writing?
I've started work on the second novel. I can't tell you too much about it yet, but I can tell you that in this one, Jackson rubs shoulders with the life extension community, and what a fabulous bit of research that's turning into. So there are going to be 3 novels with Jackson and his friends in Vancouver as massage therapy thrillers. Once I have those out the door, I'm going to continue writing mysteries and thrillers. What form they're going to take, I'm not really sure yet. But definitely this is my profession moving forward. So, so I'm totally dedicated to learning what I need to be an independent publisher. Thankfully, it's never been easier to do that, and all the information is out there.
Right.
So, so yeah, that's what the future looks like for now.
Your research and your homework have paid off, so
Thank you.
you've made it a reality. Good for you. Thank you for being a guest on Talking Kootenay Books. Tony, it's been a pleasure. Congratulations on your book, and we look forward to having you in the future when you get number 2 and number 3 out.
Thanks again, Keith. I look forward to coming back.
My name is Keith Powell, and this has been Talking Kootenay Books. Welcome to Talking Kootenay Books. My name is Keith Powell. I'm your host today. And with me today is Bill Roberts. Bill is well known in the Kimberley-Cranbrook area. And Bill, your first book, The Best Miners in the World, really a great read. Can you just tell me a little bit about that book? Because we're just going to set the stage for your new book as well.
What it is, it's it's a chronicle of short stories I gathered over the years, and how that evolved is by sitting in the bar after work and talking to other miners, and there's telling stories. And then one sooner or later, some guy's going to say, somebody should write a book about it. So I wrote a book about it.
Yep.
Did okay. What really pushed it is when I lost my partner in the mine, and I felt that I had to give the miners a face. That would really pushed it. I had to give them a legacy. And so this book, as far as I'm concerned, it's a legacy of what mining is about.
So I think you've mentioned to me, Bill, that you've reprinted that a number of times. Is that correct?
Yes, it went into its 8th printing this year.
Well, congratulations.
Yeah.
Now, you followed that up with a new book in a little bit different format, and actually a novel. The book is called Wild Horse Kate, and I just wanted to talk about that today. So tell us about the new book. What was the inspiration behind it, and how did it all come together?
Well, I think like most people here, most of our family are immigrants. One half of my family came from Ireland, the other half came from Scotland. And I knew what they had to go through, a lot of them, when they came here to this new world. And then I started looking around here, and I said, there's a terrific amount of history in this area here. You know, you've got your railway people, you've got your lumber people, you've got your miners. And then I went into the Fort Steele area, and I started looking around up there, and I went up into the Wild Horse there. And I looked at where all the old miners worked at one time. There's 5,000 miners there at one time. 5,000. That's a lot of people. But if you go down that road, there's 2 miles of just slag that they picked and picked and picked and threw out in the ground there, you know. And I only wish I was there for it. I'd love to have seen that happen, you know, just to be involved in that type of work.
Based on your book, it was a colorful era, a colorful time in the Kootenays for sure. We're talking back in the 1860s,
Yeah.
so a long time ago. But I thought your book really brought it to life because you were able to really sort of showcase what these people went through. Can you just talk a little bit about your personal connection to the story?
I have to think about my Irish family. They escaped from like my granddad had to get out of Ireland because of his political beliefs.
Mm-hmm.
He had to get away from them because there's people looking for him at that time when he come to Canada, and it saved him. And my other side was from Scotland. They're blacksmiths in the shipyards, and there was no work. The only work was when they come to Canada, because who paid for their way to get here was the CPR. They give them jobs as blacksmiths.
Right. So your second book, the new one, is substantially different than the first book, obviously.
I know.
How did you find, you know, here's you sort of a historical record, and then you have a novel. How did you sort of keep those two things separate?
I'm a terrific imagination mostly, and I looked around. I read things, and I listened to people. But there's a lot of information out there if you really go digging for it, you know. And then you just try to put it together and make a story out of it. That's all it was for me. I found it very simple, actually.
Good.
If you've got imagination, you can be a writer. And I don't think of myself as a writer. I think myself more as a storyteller.
Right.
Because I don't believe in abbreviation. I'm like Faulkner. He never did either. So.
Yeah. Well, you know, your book is fast-paced. There's lots of action that takes place within the book. And can you just give us just a snapshot of what it's about?
Well, what it's about an Irish family in the 1840s during the potato famine. And they're dying there. They're dying because there's nothing to eat. So the father, he decided the family's got to move. We got to move to North America to get away from it. So they can keep alive. And they talk about what it's like to get out of Ireland. It was horrifying. You know, they lost millions of people during that potato famine. And I talk about their ship cruise. Their ship got them to Quebec, and what it was like on the ship when the Black Death was there. They got quarantined there, and there's so many people on it. They just take the dead bodies off the ship onto that island there, and that was it for them. And then the father decided he had hooked up with a little English miner from Cork. And he showed them how to mine. They teamed up together. They went to Virginia City, and something happened there. So it was bad. So the woman had to take over, the mother, Megan, she had to take over the family, learn how to live. And now at that time, there's only couple of ways to make a living. Washing dishes or hooking up with some guy who just needs a wife or something like that. But she took the option where she could do what she could and make the most money.
So she did end up on the banks of Wild Horse Creek.
Well, that's a daughter, Kate. Megan got killed in their line of business. So Kate took over the business and started moving up from Virginia City up to the Wild Horse, where they heard there's a gold strike, and that's where it went. Right. That she.
Well, you presented in a very imaginative way. I found the book really easy to read, and like I said, it was very fast-paced. So I just wanted to ask about your writing style. How do you go about formatting your writing, and how often do you write?
Well, I try to write as often as I can, but you gotta be inspired that day to write. You know, I guess I should do it if I'm proper. It'd be 2 or 3 hours a day, but I can't do that. I got to do it when I feel like it.
Right.
You know, you have to feel like it at the moment. I went down to the Wild Horse and just sat there and just sat on a slag pile and just imagine what it was like there sometimes, you know. Right. And then I have a tape, and I tape my stories, what I'm talking about, you know, by myself.
Right. So you really immerse yourself in the experience.
Oh yeah.
So Bill, your book has been out, what, 4, 5, 6 months?
That's about it.
What's the reaction been?
Well, I've been nothing but favorable, because I've got a lot of people saying, is there going to be a sequel? Well, I had to wait to see how it was going to be received, and I've been very lucky. A lot of people say, where's that sequel coming now, eh? So there's probably going to be a sequel, more than likely.
Well, Bill, we'll talk a little bit about the publishing. You and I work fairly closely to get your book out and to get it published. It seemed like you know, you had some ideas, I had some ideas, and they went together quite nicely. Are you happy with the way the book came together?
Pretty happy, yes. But I know it's my first novel. And it's hard to write a novel. You know, it's hard. And I know where my shortcomings are now, better than when I did this first novel. I know what I have to do now, a lot better, and it's going to be better.
Yeah. So that gives you something to work on in the future.
Yes.
Yeah. So I just wanted to ask you in conclusion here, Bill, you've written the 2 books, and when you go out and market them, do they go hand in hand? Or are you able to talk to people about both books?
Well, yes, that's what I want to do, yes. Because anybody who's read the first book, you know, they're kind of curious about the second book, and that's what's going on in Kimberley right now, because people are saying, well, where's that second book you've been telling us about for years? I says, it's out now. Just go look for it. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, congratulations, Bill. It's great to have you as a guest. Again, the book is Wild Horse Kate.
Yeah.
The author is Bill Roberts. Bill is from Kimberley. Thank you for being our guest on Talking Kootenay Books.
And thank you very much, Keith, and thank you for the film crew, too.
So, my name is Keith Powell, and this is Talking Kootenay Books.